Crescent's Wave is the new Greatsword artifact that was introduced in Season 9, whose unique perk, Crescent Wave, causes heavy attacks to cast a projectile forward, dealing 150% weapon damage, whilst we are above 50% health, with each wave costing 20 mana. Now to make this artifact work in PvE, we had to get a bit creative with our attributes, and as a result, we have an attribute split you likely won't have used before. For this build, we are running 200 strength, 200 dex, 200 int, 25 focus, and 50 con. Greatsword is unique in that it scales evenly with both strength and dex, whereas most split attribute weapons have a primary stat and a secondary stat. For this reason, evenly splitting attributes between strength and dex can give us the most damage. We also gain access to the attribute threshold bonuses from both. This means from 200 strength, we gain plus 5% damage to light attacks, plus 10% to heavy attacks, plus 10% to physical damage, plus 15 stam regen whilst exhausted, and plus 10% damage to crowd controlled enemies. From 200 dex, we gain plus 5% critical hit chance, plus 5% damage whilst at full health, plus 5% damage whilst stamina is not full, plus 10% duration to dots, and plus 10% damage to backstabs and headshots. Now, one of the key requirements for this artifact is mana, with each wave costing 20 mana. This is where 200 int comes in. Whilst the Greatsword does not scale with int, we still gain the attribute threshold bonuses. From 200 int, we gain plus 5% damage to backstabs and random crits, plus 5% to enemies affected by dots, plus 10% to light and heavy elemental attacks, plus 10% to elemental damage, and plus 10% mana on critical hits. As when we attack with the Greatsword, part of the damage will be physical, and part will be elemental, we gain from having the plus 10% to elemental damage from int, and the plus 10% to physical damage from strength. The key bonus from int, however, is the 10% mana on critical hit. In PvE, the majority of the time we will be attacking behind an enemy, resulting in a guaranteed critical hit from our melee attacks. The wave itself is classed as magic, so it does not get the backstab bonus, so we'll just have a chance to crit. So this means with each attack we will gain at least 10% mana and more if the wave also crits. This allows us to consistently be heavy attacking without having to worry about mana. For our remaining attributes, we have 25 focus for cooldown reduction and 50 con for some health. Now let's take a look at the gear. To start things off, we of course have the artifact Crescent Wave. Now alongside the unique perk Crescent Wave that causes the wave to go forward, this artifact also has a second unique perk. Parallax increases our damage to enemies further than 10 meters away by 12%. Crescent's Wave comes with thwarting strikes and sundering stacks. For the final perk, we've added a gem slot. For the gem, we're using an Opal Runeglass gem with arcane damage, adding some further damage to our attacks. For our secondary weapon, we have so many options we can choose from. As we have 200 strength, dex and int, the possible choices for secondary weapons are massive, and any weapon that scales with these attributes would be viable. It may depend on the type of content you are doing. In mutations, for example, you would likely want something that adds some utility, such as Warhammer, Great Axe, Spear or Hatchet could all be a good choice. In this gameplay, we were using the build in the Hive of Gorgons, and therefore chose Musket as our secondary weapon, so we had access to ranged for the final boss. Musket scales with int and dex, so fits perfectly as we are using 200 points in each. It also gains from the attribute threshold bonuses from strength, and the plus 10% bonus damage from the first unique perk on Crescent's Wave. For our musket, we are using the Hoplite musket with the perks Disdained Infliction, Attunement, and Keenly Jagged. Onto the armour. For the artifact, we are using Attuned Leather Pants for the extra attributes. For the final perk, we've added health. For our helm, we are using Enchanted Ward, Relentless Freedom, and Arcane Harnessing. Relentless Freedom causes Relentless Rush to remove roots and slows, and increases Relentless Rush's crit chance by 13%. This is good for two reasons. Some mutation effects, such as those in nature and ice mutations, will root you in place. This gives you a nice counter. Secondly, the increased crit chance is great for enemies we can't backstab, increasing our chance to crit to get that mana back from the 200 int bonus. In this piece we have added an empowered Runeglass gem, which combined with Arcane Harnessing gives plus 4% to our arcane damage. For the remainder of our armour, we are using Health, Refreshing and Enchanted Ward. Overall, this gets us to 4 Enchanted Ward, 4 Refreshing and 4 Health. As an upgrade to this build, I would change the chest to Silken Cocoon to gain extra crit chance. However, this is only obtained through the worm, so it may not be easily accessible. For our amulet, we are using Health plus a protection perk, which will change depending on the type of content you're doing. In this case, as we were doing the Hive of Gorgon, we had Strike Protection and later Nature Protection. For our ring, we are using Elemental Band. Elemental Band's unique perk provides us with 4% Empower when we deal elemental damage, which we will trigger with Crescent Wave. It comes with Hearty and Keen Awareness. For the final perk, we've added Leeching. Keen Awareness is great here, as we want to increase our crit chance to trigger the mana gain from 200 int. For our earring, we are using Healthy Toast, Refreshing Toast and Healing Heart. Whilst we have the extra mana from 200 int, we will still need to use mana pots at times. Healthy Toast and Refreshing Toast are perfect to both lower the cooldown of our potions and add some extra healing. Onto the skill tree. For the Greatsword, we are using Relentless Rush, Calamity Counter and Rupture. Relentless Rush provides us with mobility, damage, empower, roots enemies, and thanks to the perk on our armour, removes roots and slows. It's great for when you need to move through enemies, such as enabling you to quickly get to the back of the first boss in the Hive. It also gives us access to Onslaught stance, increasing our outgoing damage by 15% and causing our heavy attacks to charge 50% faster. This is key to allow us to heavy attack quickly to send out those Crescent waves. Calamity Counter is used as our defense, similar to how you use Riposte on the Rapier. This is great for blocking big attacks. Sometimes when using heavy attacks, you get stuck in the attack animation and cannot dodge. This gets around that and allows you to block mid-attack animation. Rupture provides Fortify, Weaken, Uninterruptible, and can help group enemies. For the musket, I won't go into too much detail as the build is mainly focused on Crescent's Wave with lots of options for the secondary weapon, but I'll quickly put up the skill tree I was using. The main aim of the skill tree was to get the 3 skills from the left and the ultimate from the right. Overall, this build feels really fun to play, with Crescent's Wave adding some extra life to the Greatsword. It's also really cool being able to use such a unique attribute split and having so many options for the secondary weapon as a result. That's it for the video. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. Thanks for watching.